I will say that there's also Posse, New Jack City back there as well. I grew up on those films, so this is truly a blessing to talk to you guys.
Thank you, man. Well, thanks for talking to us. I like
I,
your beard, bro.
thank you, thank you. Um, let's see here. You have Mario, you have an extensive career, as both an actor and a director. How did your past experiences influence your approach with this film and working with Mandela as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, um, you know, I grew up seeing my dad do it as a filmmaker, and eventually walking in some of the same paths that he walked, and understand and appreciating him more. Because initially I was like, I don't know about this guy. I don't always like him. I don't always hear his shit. And then, but after trying to make indie film for a while, you go, wait a minute, he knows what he's doing. I was like, Mark Twain has that great quote where he says, all my life, my father was an idiot. And at 21, he was a genius, meaning that my perspective shifted and I got to understand. So I've been fortunate enough to sort of grow up seeing pop make changes in Hollywood with a camera. And then I was able to go out and say, okay, he did that independently. And sometimes I got to do it independently, like in the case of Outlaw Posse. And then fortunate enough to say, okay, I want to get the best actors I can to be in this Western with me, whether they're Whoopi Goldberg as Stagecoach Mary or Emmett Walsh or Neil McDonough, or who could play my son. I need a guy who can really act, ride a horse, and has had a lot of practice because we're not going to get take five. This is the independent film. Someone's got to really know how to get their horse over here. So they got to know what they're doing. When that bank robbery comes and I need to be rescued with the getaway horse, he's got to be able to ride in there. And who better to do it with than my son, Mandella Van Peebles. So some of that was like looking at your family, looking at your life, looking at a Western and going, oh, yeah, we could do this and have some fun doing it.
Yeah, Mandela, that brings up a really good point. Playing your father's, on-screen son, that has to be a unique experience. Obviously, you prepared for that role your entire life. What was it like working with your dad in this Western? And, like, give us a little insight as to like how you felt when this was all coming together.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun being able to work with Pops, and kind of like you said, in our relationship, we get to wear two different hats. So this time around, we're wearing cowboy hats, and yeah, playing a father and son on screen, it it really enjoyable. Yeah, it helps because we have a real life relationship, so we go through stuff. We have different beefs, so we have different laughs and smiles and inside jokes. So when we're having a challenging scene, I have stuff to pull on and use to kind of motivate me, and I'm sure it works vice versa. But there's real feelings there. There's a real love there that's doesn't have to be faked. So I think a lot of what makes acting believable is reacting and using real feelings to convey kind of imaginary situations. But luckily, being father and son in real life, that's not imaginary. And I think a lot of the issues we tackle with Outlaw Posse, although it's through the perspective of the Old West, very relevant today. People having fair access to education or housing, even people in power and leadership, systematically disenfranchising people and marginalizing people. We have kind of just even women issues with Stagecoach Mary saying,
Yeah.
all of that. Women weren't even allowed to vote when this was going down, and yeah, even global warming with the Native Americans saying, "Close up the earth." Gold lust is a bad thing, and I think what was a lot of fun about making Outlaw Posse was not only making an entertaining film, but doing it with my dad and getting to say something positive with it. So it was a lot of fun. And you add some revolvers and some horses into that, and I had a blast.
Mandela, you have a very diverse like catalog. You have comedy, drama, horror. Now you're adding Western to the mix. How does Outlaw Posse fit in your diverse body of work? And was there anything that excited you, outside of working with your dad? Like were the horses, was that exciting? Or like, was there anything that drew you to this project? Uh,
Definitely, definitely. That's a great question. So earlier in my career, I was still in college at the time, but we worked on a project called Roots, the remake, the retelling of Roots. I played a character called Noah, originally played by Lawrence Hilton Jacobs, and Pops was actually directing the episode I was in, so he wasn't actually able to be on screen with me. But that being said, having that kind of period piece and going down to south into Louisiana and spending time in that wardrobe on those plantations and having my horse's name was Boone. I had him for like 2 months and just riding around. I love that experience. It was so much fun. So getting the call from Pops saying, "Hey, I want to make another Western. Would you be around?" I thought, nothing better than kind of reimagining that relationship. But now he's in front of the camera with me, and we both get to ride and haul asses on.
And we hauled ass.
Yeah.
I mean, there was woo that night scene.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness! I mean, I've never been that fast on a horse, man.
Growing up with a film like Posse, I have to mention that, and you mentioned this, that with this wild new Western, the circle is now complete, which I thought that was a really cool way to put the icing on the cake, if you will. Can you elaborate a little bit on what this means for you personally and professionally, and how Outlaw Posse kind of contributes to that sense of completion, or like maybe even the legacy of your family?
Yeah, definitely. When I did Posse, Mandela wasn't born yet. That was 30 years ago. And when I did Outlaw Posse, my dad had already passed. So I've been the connective tissue, man. I was there with dad and I'm there with my son. And it's been a pretty amazing life. My father gave me my first lines ever in a feature film. And I gave him his last lines ever in a feature film. That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger deal is that I remember Dad, turned to me once and he said, Mario, I love you and I like you, but I also admire that you know, you're courageous, and that means that when you have the opportunity to make a movie, treat each one like it's your last movie. We said the three loves: love what you do, like the business you're in, love and enjoy the folks you get to do it with, you work with, and love what you say with your work. And that takes a certain amount of courage to say, right now in America, we're being turned against each other. We're seeing the dividing lines, not the commonalities. We're not, and Dr. King said, we all learn to live together as brothers in harmony and sisters in harmony, or we perish together as fools. And I think that part of that is about understanding we were all there in the West, and the real West was super diverse. 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 cowboys was Black. There were Native Americans, of course.
Yep.
The border moved across Mexico, so if they stayed put, we moved across there. And there were Asians building the railroad, and Black folks for free now in 1908, and so now, and suddenly in 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation, and for the first time we could be fathers. Up until then, you couldn't legally be a Black father, as Whoopi Goldberg says in the movie. So there were so many things that were seemed insurmountable at that time, and yet we've moved so far since then. And I think we're in an election cycle, and it's super important that we come together, laugh together, break bread together. And in this movie, Outlaw Posse, you get to see things and start conversations that you couldn't at a normal dinner table. You couldn't say, well, I got an idea. How about there's a white guy and a Black guy, and they rob a bank in whiteface as Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid? You get thrown out of there. You'd get canceled. You know what I mean? And so to say, no, we're going to get DC Young Fly to do it. Well, who can do shit like that? Crazy Mario. My mom's white. dad's black. I got a gay aunt. I got a Trumper aunt. I got a love with big arms. My kid's cool. So we, in our family, we joke, we love, we play, we make mistakes. We curse each other out, but we also love each other out. And so I wanted to bring that energy, that family, that sense of gumbo made me love to the screen. And that's what Outlaw Posse is. It's like, let's get Edward James Olmos. Let's get Cedric the Entertainer and DC Young Fly and Cam Gigante and Neil McDonough, who plays the badass, cowboy in every other cowboy movie. And let's see if we can all mix it up together and bring something to the screen that's fresh.
Well, yeah, that's the perfect way to conclude this. Mandella, I'm excited to continue to see your star rise. Thank you so much for your time. Mario, obviously a staple of my catalog. Before I go, I have to ask one question about Solo. Did you ever did the Jordan camp ever comment on that? Like say, hey, Mario, you don't look like me, or was there anything?
You know what? They did. I think the context was that he wanted to be like Mike, but that they took the look of another soldier,
Yeah.
and that he wanted to say, okay, shave his head and do the same thing. But I'm glad you saw Solo. That was mad fun. When I did Solo, Mandella came down to the set, and I had to shoot the scene where Solo jumps up to the helicopter and hangs onto the helicopter. And I did it for real.
Yeah.
And so he got to, I don't know if he remembers, he's a little guy looking, and he watched his dad jump on the thing. And then this funny, I'll tell you real quick. So him and his brother, we went to a movie theater. And traditionally, when I watch a movie, I like to hear the movie. And sometimes people get loud. So me and his brother are in the movie, and they're about, I don't know, 6 or something, 7 maybe. And this big gang of teenagers is getting louder and louder. And Mandella turns to them and goes, hey, you guys, you better bring it down. My dad will get pissed off. So I'm like, this is a gang of kids. I don't want to, I don't want to get in a beef with a whole 20 of these 20-year-old kids, right? And I said, no. They're like, Dad, what do you mean? You could pick up a tree or throw a car. And I'm like, oh, shit. Okay, foam tree, fake car, stuntman. You're going to get Dad's ass kicked.
Do you remember that, Mandella?
I think he's thinking of my other brother.
Yeah. That was brilliant. But well, it was funny that I realized that they'd grown up seeing me as Solo, as cowboy, and so for him to grow up seeing his dad and Posse and now get to do it together with me, it's life couldn't be doper in that way, and that it's just been an incredible life, man.
Well, thank you for keeping indie film alive. I'm going to look forward to the next one. Mandella, you're going to have to, take the reins of the Posse. Maybe we can get a trilogy out of this. But yeah. Thank you guys. Y'all take care.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
All right.